Back when I was putting kids through college, I started a company called Animal Episodes, where we provided animals for commercials, movies, and television. It was wild. We had to do things, chasing cockroaches up tables, and you just never knew. And there are a lot of funny stories about that. But at any rate, it was heavy work. And as I got older, there was one day I was going across the Mystic Tobin Bridge with 15 roosters in the car to take a bunch of them to Harvard Square so some guy could carry a rooster through Harvard Square. And because of that, I had to have 15 at 4 o'clock in the morning, And I thought, I'm getting kind of old for this. During this whole thing, the Department of Agriculture got involved, and they came to the farm, and they wanted me to put in kennel fencing, proper kennel fencing. I had horse fencing, and they didn't like it. So I had the kind with the bar at the top that I now have all over the place. And I had to do it, or I could not do any more of these jobs that I had lined up. So I put it in. That day, my stud dog got his front feet over that damn bar at the top and got out, and he bred 3 females in one afternoon. 63 days later, I had 23 Great Dane puppies, and they were beautiful puppies. I just kind of started in with those 23 and just started to play with them. And then I started to contact a few people I knew, and how was I going to get in this? And they introduced me to Assistance Dog International, which is the national group of people who are certified trainers. And they're the ones making the rules about how a service dog has to behave and things like that. And they're working with the ADA and the airlines and the restaurants, and they're doing all that. So all I had to do was join this group and become accredited, and I would be a trainer. My father had Parkinson's, and I had a friend with MS. And the more I looked at those dogs, and the more I thought, I always wanted to be a service dog trainer. I researched an awful lot of the Great Dane people in New England were bragging about how much BMW bloodline they had in their animals that they had. So I went down to this BMW kennel down there in Long Island, Farmingham or something like that, and met Laura, who ran the thing, and she was really into the showing of Great Danes, and she had all champions. They're gorgeous dogs, gorgeous dogs. 2 things that I noticed. One, that her dogs were beautiful, and she won many Westminster sort of things, and she had championships on all of them. The other thing, she had a picture on the wall where she had 5 big Great Dane dogs in a rowboat, where she took them over to Fire Island or someplace to run them every day. And there was about 1 inch of wood showing on either side. If they had moved at all, they all would have fallen in. So in other words, she had control over these dogs somewhat. So I had respect for that. That's the first time in any dog breeding situation around here where I'd seen somebody who really had control of the situation. Her dogs were heavy-duty dogs, which I liked. And the reason they was most peculiar. She had a pilot who was a friend of hers who used to fly back and forth to Germany. And she had a sperm swapping deal going with a breeder in Germany, where the pilot would have a vial of sperm in his vest pocket going one way or another, so that in her bloodlines you will see that there's a lot of German and European blood, and in some European dogs you will see BMW bloodlines. And the reason was her friend the pilot. You wouldn't take a basketball player and put him in a football field. He'd get murdered. And it kind of is that way with Great Danes, that for the work that I wanted to do with them, I wanted the short, I said leg half the height is what I say. And I heard that from the Amish people. They are the ones that would choose a Percheron or a Belgian draft horse over a Clydesdale. The Clydesdales are real fancy, pretty, long legs and fancy, but it's the Belgians and the Percherons that'll pull the plows. And I applied that philosophy to my breeding of Great Danes. So our finished product, as far as we're concerned, is we are giving a person a dog that is ready to help them and certainly not be a hindrance. Knows its way around, knows its physical, knows how to get in and out of restaurants and get under a table if it has to, or into an airplane, or no, it takes all these physical things. But the dog is still not finished by any means, because anytime you handle an animal, you're training it. And we want to produce an animal that says, okay, I've got everything up to now, what are you going to teach me next? And the person has to be able to say, okay, this is how I live, this is my limitations, this is what I need help with. And all of that gets worked in, usually in the first 6 months. They get through all crazy things that we couldn't possibly train a dog to do. All we can do is train a dog to learn how to help and be ready to help. And that's when the dog sort of says, oh, I've got it. This is what I'm supposed to do. And then I don't have to live in that kennel.
We could do so much more with more resources. So that is the issue that we struggle with on a daily basis. We are a nonprofit. We do not accept money for our dogs. They are donated, and no one is evaluated based on their personal finances, ever. That's a thing that we really stick to. And so that being said, we worry, and we are not fortunate enough to have an endowment. We survive month to month, year to year on grants. And it is tricky because we have to essentially plan out 2 years. When we say, okay, we want to have another litter, that from that date until these dogs are ready to be partnered as fully certified service dogs, it's about 2 years. Do we have the money in 2 years? It's decisions that are sometimes very hard to make, especially in view of the fact that our pile of applications keeps growing and growing. And lately, with the success we've had with children, small child, huge dog, fantastic combination as it turns out. We couldn't have predicted that. We get many more applications now on behalf of young children. So that is a need that's there that we would like to do more to fill.
Well, I was a patient in the VA in Leeds, and I was also part of an organization called the Massachusetts Head Injury Fund. You know, I suffer from a traumatic brain injury, a blast injury. I had zero balance. I was in a wheelchair to a walker, back to a wheelchair, tried a little cane action. Really was having a very tough time staying upright. At that point, I think I was just wanting something to do to stay busy. And every time I showed up here, I would sit and talk to Carlene. And she kept asking me these questions, and those questions led to other questions, and before you knew it, she gave me a call one day and she goes, you know what, I think I have a dog that's going to work for you. And so I got my transportation down here and came down, and Carlene stuck me up in the guest house with who we all know is Charlie now. And Charlie and I hung out for a couple days, and Carlene would pick me up in the morning and we'd go out in the big bus with Charlie and go to the stores, and I think she even took me for a haircut one day. And slowly, I got to know Charlie, and Charlie got to know me. And I can remember Carlene saying, okay, go down to the end of the sidewalk by the guest house. And we both walked down, Carlene and I, and the dog came out and the dog came to me, and Carlene said, we have a match. And that's the way it went. PTSD is different for everybody, and that's why it's so hard to understand what people are going through. You know, you start reliving things, you start remembering things, things like smell, sight, hear. All those little senses that you have tend to trigger off parts of your PTSD. You know, I smell gun smoke, or powder or anything like that, it sets off a whole different brain process to me. Firecrackers, anything like that sets me into a whole different mode. And it can be scary at times. The thing is, you have to just kind of have to deal with it. And I have found the best way to deal with that is with Charlie. Because Charlie, one, lets me know that it's okay, and two, he often tells me beforehand by his senses of smell, sight, and hearing what's going on. So if he starts seeing my anxiety start to raise up, or things are getting a little crowded, a little noisy, he tends to come in really close, keeps reminding me that he's there, which brings down my anxiety. So it's a team effort on both the dog and the individual. And that's because if a dog thinks for itself, you'll have much better success rate. If a dog's a robot, it's not going to work out so well.
I have MS, I have progressive MS, and it didn't really start to affect me until I was walking my 5th graders down to art class. Actually, I noticed my feet were starting to drag, and that's when I had my first relapse. And it went quickly. In about a week, lost my legs completely and was in a wheelchair. We were looking and trying to figure out a better way to move around. I thought there has to be a better way. And so I actually saw a video of a woman walking down the stairs with a Great Dane. And I thought, that's what I want to do. I want to be able to walk down the stairs. That's when we contacted the Service Dog Project. I met with Carlene, and I knew there were lots of applicants and lots of people who deserved dogs. And I felt like I needed to show Carlene and everyone here that I was committed. And I worked down here with the kids, and I worked with the dogs, and I didn't have any expectations. And even just being here was wonderful for me. And then they said, "We think we have a dog for you." Steve came in and he got off and then he said, "Come on over here, Zeke." And Zeke turned his head to me and he's like, "Look, he's already starting to detach from us and attach to you. And he's looking for your permission to come over to me." And then he's been next to me ever since.
We have a little kid, Hunter, who has the dog Wendy. Dynamite little kid. And when he first came, I think it's cerebral palsy, but it affected an awful lot of him, every part of him.
Service Dog Project has changed so much for us. Hunter's outlook was a wheelchair by age 7 when we first started seeing the doctors. Wendy changed that very early. They noticed 2 days after we got her that we had a doctor's appointment down there that he was walking totally different and had a different presence of himself, more self-confidence, more self-feeling of just how his ability to go and do whatever he would like to do. He's always been a hard worker, and it showed because it did take a lot of work for them, and it took a lot of work from here to get Wendy to the point where she was able to come and help him and change his life.
Before I had Wendy, I would ride my walker. I would get a running start down the hallway and then pick my feet up with my arms and just roll down the hallway. Oh, I used to get yelled at for that so many times. I would just turn the corner and then start doing it again. So my legs never got any stronger. But after I got Wendy, you can't cheat using a dog. You actually got to make your legs work. So now my legs have gotten stronger.
2 summers ago, we went out to Colorado to see my sister, and he did a hike up it that took him up to 12,005 feet up in Estes National Park. And everybody down here, we're very thankful. I don't know if how I can ever repay the favor.
I've had a history of drinking, and I have been sober for 20 years. And if you get into a depression or a funk, for me, that could be a trigger. And if I'm not working and I'm sitting at home and I'm wallowing in self-pity, then I'm not doing any favors. And that was the first instinct, was to get out and be of service. And that helped some of the problem. But I still had time. I was still missing something. And so when I got Chester, Witt, and Martha, it just changed everything.
Instant family.
Yeah, instant family. They keep me busy. They keep me grounded. The statement, be the person your dog thinks you are. That's it right there. I want to be the person that my dogs think I am. So that's why being here for me has been wonderful. I enjoy all the volunteers. I enjoy the farm. I enjoy the dogs. I enjoy the viewership. The recipients, every time we place a dog and a dog leaves, I just tear up. I see this puppy that I helped birth usually. I'm not there for every birthing, but most of them. But I'm always their nanny, and I watch them grow and change. And then you see them there, and you see this person that they're helping change their lives. And I cry, and I know most everybody, every time we see a dog leave here, we just tear up.
Good tears.
Oh yeah, they're happy tears, they're proud tears. One of our children, theoretically, they're going off and they're making a difference. They're doing what, we're doing it, but they're doing what we can't do. We can't help these, but our dogs can help these people,
I've met a lot of different people working here at the farm, and some people come in and instantly click with any dog on the property. It's just a matter of, this dog says, I'm ready to go. This is a person that'll take me there. Bye, see you later. So when Bella came around, it was totally different. We had a lot of dogs that wouldn't even look at her, wouldn't give her the time of day. They'd bark, they'd growl at her, they'd run away. She had a way of carrying herself, and her voice was a little odd to the dogs. And it was really sad to see, because you'd have this little girl come in with these high hopes of, I'm going to get a service dog from this place. And Carlene and I would sit there and say, I don't know if we're going to find a dog for her.